What's up, YouTube? It's your main man, AB the Hero. We chilling, doing a live stream, man. I just wanted to hop on here and talk with y'all, man. I haven't been on here in a minute, man. So I just want to see what's going on in the streets. How y'all doing? What's good with y'all? Talk about some stuff happening currently in the sports world. All right. So first question. Let me see here. NCAA tournament is underway. And man, I really wanted to do a little thing on the channel where I had where we could do the NCAA tournament and do a open bracket, you know what I'm saying? All the subs and stuff, we could get on there and do like a AB the Hero live bracket, but I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I've been busy with some like work stuff, so I didn't get to even fill out my bracket in time. But you know how they do the second round of brackets with the Sweet 16? Once that jump off, we'll have a little Sweet 16 bracket, you know what I'm saying? And then whoever win, we'll try to do maybe a giveaway or something like that. Cool, you know what I'm saying? Just to add to the flavor of that whole thing. But you know what I'm saying? As y'all jump in here, man, let me know who tuning in, where you tuning in from. You know what I'm saying? We'll get them shout outs popping. But let's see, we got a couple things, man, we're gonna talk about this evening. Number one of those things, all right, so y'all know that BBB All-American game about to jump off. I want to say it's the 30th or the 31st in Las Vegas. I want to see how many of y'all planning on being in attendance for that game. I've been wrestling with that myself, man. I kind of want to pull up, but I actually was just in Mexico like last week, which is also probably why I missed the opportunity to fill out the NCAA tournament bracket. We've been on the move a little bit, so part of me wants to make it to that game and show up and show out Sniper Gang Steph what it do from Jersey. Pierre Alexander from Atlanta, what's up? A-Town, shouter. But so part of me wants to show up and show out for that game, cause then I get to see my dog COB, Chuck O'Bannon. You know what I'm saying? He live out there in Vegas. Some of the Vegas dudes, Jarrell Springer, I'm sure will be out there. Capri, Uzon, all of them folks from this, a lot of Seattle baller guys live in Vegas, so it'd be dope to mess out right there. If it was a Jersey, if it was in like Chicago, I would definitely be there, you know what I'm saying, somewhere close. But, you know what I'm saying, or if it was streaming, I don't know if it's streaming or not. I haven't heard anything, to be honest, about that. But if it was streaming and I could go out there and do like some commentary for it, I would probably do that as well. But just to go kick it on like a little another vacation, you know what I'm saying, I don't know, I might miss that one. But so they got some pretty decent recruits from what I can tell playing in that game. 5 players who are in the top 50 nationally ranked. Your boy Lamelo, obviously, Rocket Watts. We seen him, we learn to love him. He's a hooper throughout this year. Jaden McDaniels. I will say that for me, I think that also a part of the one of the reasons that I'm not like, oh yeah, I definitely got to make it, is I appreciate high school basketball, but I've been getting it more into it over the past couple of years. But I'm not like 1000% well versed in everything that's happening in high school hoops. So like I'm like not like, dang, I gotta make it, you know what I'm saying? But it also made me wonder with games like the McDonald's All-American game, the Jordan Brand Classic, like are those games primarily for the people who live in those cities, or are those games for the like people actually fly into those games and kind of attend? Are those games that big of an event where you'll fly into wherever the McDonald's All-American game is just to see your favorite high school player play? I know that now in today's society with social media and all of these things, we have a lot of these high school players probably have more clout than like they ever had. So I could see people I could see people showing up and showing out, you know what I'm saying, to go see Zion, or if LeBron was in high school right now, or like, you know. So I don't think that there's, outside of Melo, I don't know if there is anybody in high school right now who like would fly in to go see the McDonald's All-American game just to go say I like watch this one high school player, which I think is a dope thing for like the Big Baller brand, is that they kind of created a classic or created an event that I feel like people around the world, or at least the United States, would have to consider. Like, dang, it would kind of be dope to fly out to Vegas and go watch this Big Baller brand classic. Even though, especially if when I was going down on the Instagram post that was that they posted, and looking at, some folks not familiar with a lot of those players, but you still go because you think, you know what I'm saying, your boy Melo's gonna show up and show out, Rocky Watt's gonna show up and show out. But then also in the stands you may get to meet LeVar, Gelo probably gonna be there, Jordan Ray, all of these other personalities who are associated with the brand, and you can go buy some merch. Like, is a big enough reason to hop on a plane potentially and go to Vegas for that weekend just to catch the Big Baller brand first ever All-American game. Let me see. Starborn, what's up, man? It's been a minute. You eating too good. Face getting big, fam. Originally from Harlem, but now watching from Omaha, Nebraska. Nebraska. That's what's up, man. Hey, you know what I'm saying? It's actually funny that you say that, because I've been doing, you know, they got that little Whole 30, you know what I'm saying, where you don't eat, I don't even know the rules 100%, but basically you eat pretty much only natural things, you know what I'm saying? I'm in the gym, you know what I'm saying? So give me about 2 weeks, you know what I'm saying, Starborn, come back, you know what I'm saying, and hopefully my face will be back to normal, you know what I'm saying, a little bit slimmer, like we used to do it. JBA season 2, still I don't, there's not much updates that I believe that's out there right now with the JBA season 2. I think that you potentially there's still a higher probability for a JBA USA squad to then go back out there than it is on a full-blown season 2, but I think it's one of those things, like I said in the video before, it's about who's willing to put money behind it, and what are you willing to put money behind. You know what I mean? To bring the whole season back would probably take X amount of dollars. To go to USA would take X amount of dollars. And how would that benefit certain people involved? What's that? Sniper Gang Steph say Jay Morant. Jay Morant, that's the kid who plays for Murray State, right? Hooper. I watched some of the highlights from the game earlier today. They were playing Marquette, and it looked like he was putting on a little show, doing his thing, dominating. Who all going pro from the JBA? You know what? I feel like I'll answer your question, but I'll also answer your question again and say that I think that people don't realize the JBA is technically pro. You feel me? So all of them went pro. I think that, I've said this before too, I think the guys who will go the furthest, and the furthest being like potentially the NBA, or, you know what I mean, Euro League, or one of those big leagues that everybody respects and all of that stuff, those guys will be the guys who find their next opportunity. You know what I mean? Whether that be guys like Harrison Rieger, who is playing right now in, not Spain, I can't remember offhand. But he's playing somewhere overseas in South America. You got the guys like Curtis Hollis, Neon Weck, Taco, and Nate Morris playing for the Dallas Heat, who is it's a semi-pro team, but they're affiliated with Texas Legends, which is a G League squad. So it's about those guys who find that next opportunity to really showcase the skills and show like what they learned from playing in the JBA, where their game is, and then those guys will be the folks who take the next step. So I think even if you look at a LaMelo, right, if you use him as like a kind of guidepost of the footsteps that other JBA players need to follow, is he went from the JBA back to high school to like solidify his game. So I feel like Gelo is probably gonna have to go from the JBA to the G League to solidify his game or something like that. I think that that'll be the type of steps that you see these players take. And for some of them, I know that I was reaching out to like some of the teams that we were affiliated with or played against, and folks who I met overseas. And one of the biggest concerns that a lot of them had was these JBA players are super young. Like, can you imagine? These are guys who, a lot of them who are maybe playing some D1 ball, playing some JUCO ball, but still in the process of kind of learning how to play the game, learning how to be professionals, being mature. And then those guys making the jump to one of these professional leagues, that's a big jump. When you consider, like, in the NBA, guys who go to college for 1 or 2 years are like elite top talents. So to expect one of these dudes to go from the JB, from let's say high school or freshman year, to the JBA over the summer to then the NBA is a huge expectation. So I think that that's also one of the big misconceptions that I think that people have when they start talking about the JBA and these players and projecting where they're going to go, as they're thinking about it right now. I don't necessarily think about it like that. I think about it over the long haul. The guys who continue to put the work in and what they end up, those guys will be the dudes who you see are have long professional basketball careers. What do you think is better for Melo, G League or mid-major college? I think that for him, it's a tough spot, I can say, because if you look at the platform of the Big Baller Brand, the JVA and all of this stuff, they kind of talk about the NCAA and how playing professionally, you get an opportunity to play and make money off your likeness and your brand, and you can play basketball and you do all of these things. So for him to go to a mid-major, I feel like would be a great experience for the country, right? Him going back to high school was like mind-blowing for some people. People couldn't wait to see it. They wanted to believe, or they wanted proof that he was this excellent player and that he could get it done and he could dominate. And he came back and it was a phenomenon. It's a whole thing. And like the country and high school hoops in general really appreciated and liked it. And I think that if you take that and you put him in college for a mid-major, which I think will work out the best for him, actually, because then like there's a better opportunity for some influence to happen on like a college who would never normally get a player of his caliber than if he went to like an established program. So, but I think that Melo Ball playing in March Madness, as we are have it happening right now, would be an epic event. So that would be dope for him. But I think the G League wouldn't hurt him either, because he's somebody who is always played above like his age. So to be a 17, 18-year-old playing in the G League would kind of fit in the trajectory that he's been on since he was 12 years old playing high school basketball or whatnot. So I think that it just depends on branding purposes. I think college basketball would be dope for him. I think that game-wise, maybe the G League would be better. But you just never know. Once you take a step into the G League, you never know how that's going to play out for you. Is Melo going to prep school next season? I did see something about that where folks were trying to solicit him into potentially coming to a prep school and playing basically another year of high school. But I don't believe that will happen, because I think that if you're going to go to a prep school, then you might as well just bring JBA USA back and then travel around the world and have him play against other pros. And you'll probably get equal to or better competition doing that. Plus, you'll have an opportunity to just continue to build a brand. High school, prep school, and all of that stuff, you got too much stuff to worry about. When you look at what happened this year and teams pulling out and articles about trying to media recording the games and paying all of this stuff with the numbers and the money. So you don't really want to put a ton of people in jeopardy that way. So I believe that the prep school thing should not be on the table, because I think that they already have the structure to play JBA USA, create a whole season for him to play in, coaches and all of that stuff. And as we've seen from the last time you seen him at Chino Hills to where you see him at now, once he left the JBA USA, his game developed and he did get better. Lamelo in the Laker G League is slick lit. That's what I'm saying. Now, if you can guarantee him to go play for South Bay Lakers, I feel like they make that call 100 times out of 100 times. What's up, Zipmo1? We out here. Glenn Walker, what it do, my guy? Sniper Gang Steph still in the building. Johnny on the track, what's up? LA should give Gelo a contract. Andre Ingram, ain't it, Chief? I think that what you're seeing with the Los Angeles Lakers is history beginning to repeat itself, right? They are a historic franchise, right? So what they know is we got these big name players and lights and fashion, right? So you got Kobe Bryant. You go from basically Kobe Bryant, who honestly they should have learned from that. Kobe Bryant, who was a guy who came into the league out of high school, didn't start right away, and ended up being one of the greatest players in the NBA, right? And then you got Shaq, who ended up going there and is one of the greatest players. So I think that what they're trying to do is mimic that whole thing where you bring in Shaq, you bring in guys like you got Metta World Peace who comes there. You see what their most recent success was, them in free agency. But I think that if you look at the NBA right now, a lot of the teams who are like the best are bringing up these homegrown players. I feel like the Warriors did it best with Steph Curry, Clay, Draymond, and letting them build that chemistry and starting to, and then kind of creating a dynasty like that. I think that you see, you have LeBron, you have Kobe, who they trying to pass the torch to LeBron, and then you have let me hit this light over here, man. Hold on one second. And then so when you had a guy like LeBron or Kobe in there, and you have all these folks who love him, and you had all these feel good moments with that, you're trying to recreate the Kobe effect with LeBron. Last year, was that last year or was it a season or so ago, where you had the Andre Ingram thing and people were so excited about it, and then so you think to ourselves, well, let's just do it again. Let's give people something to be happy about again. And then so you bring Andre Ingram back and like not realizing that the magic may be gone. Whereas if they were going to have the same play, we're gonna pull somebody in from the G League, I feel like, yes, give your boy Gelo a little 10-day and let him go to work, pack out the thing, get the news cycle bumping in a way that is not just LeBron James, not a great teammate. And it's so negative right now around everything that they got going that I feel like Gelo to the Lakers would have been a good look for them from a PR standpoint. But you know what that is. What's going on with the whole Ball brand? What you mean? I from what I can tell, man, is you see it's continuing to move. Like, one of the things that I've always commended them for, and one of the reasons that I felt like made them interesting to me just in the first place, was the ideal that there's no such thing as a door that can shut in their face. You come back to high school and you want to give Melo opportunity to play in all these All-American games and do all of these things that, you know, and receive all these accolades that a top high school prospect should get. And the powers that be says, nah, we're not going to give that to you. So then what do is you create these entities and you start partnering with these brands who will give him those accolades, and then you create your own All-American game. So there's no like door that you can shut on them. So when what's coming next from the brand, like I've been saying, is you really never know. They move in the moment so well that like they could go from an All-American game to next thing you know, they like, you know what, we just gonna have our own college team, and and next thing you know, Lamelo is playing for the Big Baller Brand University or some jazz like that. So let's see. All right, that's a good point, but it comes down to the money, the TV contracts that they have required big stars. That's why they reach for big names instead of choosing to nurture in-house talent. I agree with you. I think that's one of the biggest conundrums with sports is the money. So like when you have the franchise who are doing things in order to make the money, it's like we understand the owner, he's trying to XYZ save this money and get these dollars, but then when you have these players who then do things for the money, you start to question their passion, how do they feel about the game and all of that stuff. So I think that the money is always going to be an issue when you're trying to build a profitable and successful sports franchise. But like, I think that if that's the reason, then you have to let that be the reason, and then like not the excuse for being bad. When you start to look at some of these young guys that the Lakers have let go, and one of the big names that everybody's been talking about so recently is D'Angelo Russell and D-Russ, whatever you call him, you know what I'm saying, and how he's been turning up right now for the Brooklyn Nets. And you basically got rid of him. I get it. You got rid of him to really give the keys to Lonzo Ball. But when you got the number 2 pick over and over, because that's what people don't realize is that D'Angelo Russell, number 2 pick. Brandon Ingram, number 2 pick. Lonzo Ball, the number 2 pick. The reason why you get those high draft picks when you're a terrible team is because you're supposed to be picking like top quality talent. You're supposed to be picking franchise changing talent. So when you get those picks so many times, like using them as pawns to then bring in older experienced players sounds like a good idea, but you also are trading the future for right now. And when you make a trade for your future for right now, you want right now to pay off. What's happening with the Lakers right now and not even making the playoffs is showing that those trades weren't worth it. If you could have a team with Julius Randle, D'Angelo Russell, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, you got a strong nucleus of young talent who can grow with a young coach as well. Now you're bringing these veteran players like a LeBron James, Rondo, what's my dog? Left-handed, played for the Knicks. You know what I'm talking about. Played for K-State. All of these, JaVale McGee, all of these veteran players who bring something to the team for sure, but then you have a young coach, so then you have a clash there. You got all these younger players who's supposed to be learning from those veteran players, but then you have these things happening like the Boston Celtics, where this young nucleus that you had who was getting all this playing time and growing now don't get the opportunities to grow anymore because you're replacing them with these veteran players who you want to see results from now, but you may or may not be getting those results. You think Lonzo would be traded to the Suns next season? I think that it'll be very interesting to see what happens with Lonzo Ball moving forward, on account that yes, he got this injury that he's been out for, but at this point he's not playing I think the rest of the season. Like they've shut him down, or he shut it down. So I think that says a lot about where he stands with the Lakers franchise. But I think that it's a gift and a curse, because they may be looking to move him, but I think that LeVar has created an environment where teams who would be interested in him are probably saying we don't know, and teams who, like the Suns, like you brought up, are like, yeah, we'll take him because we already understand that the relationship that we're going to have with the LeVar and the Big Baller Brand is going to be a certain way, because they actually want to be here, and they want to be there because they have those different relationships and things of that nature. So I think he could get traded, and I don't necessarily see it being a bad thing. And I think that with guys like Lamelo and Gelo still looking for opportunities, a team who may have some interest in Lamelo in a year would be a team who would be very likely to go ahead and make a trade for Lonzo right now. You know what I'm saying? If they can get Gelo and Melo into the G League program and all of that stuff. So I think that either way, him in Los Angeles obviously still works for them just because the brand and all this is based out of LA. But then him moving around the country also, I believe, works as well, especially if they can get to a decent sized market. He won't go to the G League though. If he get cooked, his draft stock will fall so hard. I mean that's the issue with going to the G League. But it's hard to say that as well because you look at right now what's happening. Certainly these recruits who last year were extremely high recruits, and then now they're in the NCAA and haven't panned out the way things should be. You look at the guy Romeo Langford, who was right down the street over there in Bloomington, over at IU, who didn't have a great year, didn't even make the tournament, and he's still projected to be a top 5 pick. So I get that may be because folks give him the benefit of the doubt. You're playing in a college system. You maybe need to be more free range, or these other barriers that they're put on you in college that you won't have in the pros and stuff like that. And then so going to the G League. But I think that all they have to do is, if they put him in the G League, is just kind of set up some parameters to allow there still to be an excuse, or not an excuse, but like a reason why we didn't get to see the full picture. You know what I'm saying? So like limited minutes, limited rotations and stuff like that, I think would still allow him to preserve his draft stock. But like I was saying before, we've seen him consistently play with older people. So I think that if anybody can make that transition to the G League, put up big numbers, and then go to the NBA, I think Melo could do it. Just because it wouldn't be far-fetched, or it wouldn't be a totally new experience for him. It'd be something that he's probably used to doing by now. He can get in the NBA. The Magic had no choice but to trade Gelo because they didn't want to play with him because of snitching. I think, yeah, the snitching thing definitely hurt him a lot, and probably messed up his value just personally a lot. But I think that comes to leadership, right? Once you start giving 19, 20-year-olds a ton of money, there's certain behaviors that you can expect from them. So like that whole, I'm recording you while you talk about your girl and then posting it on some stupid stuff, like that sounds like 18, 19-year-old like childish behavior. So I think like getting rid of him and not giving him an opportunity to grow into a man, as you see him doing right now, I think shows you what type of franchise and what type of leadership you have. Gelo is better than some people that play in the NBA today. He need to be on the Houston Rockets. I believe that as well. I seen him dominate on these different levels versus talent who is solid. Guys who like at some point, or guys who are playing pro basketball right now, then at some point who are talented. I think that he gets a bad rap because obviously you got two brothers who are extremely good and he's good. And I think that when you start to compare, and like I watch I watch like those cooking shows. What's his name? Gordon Ramsay, right? And Gordon Ramsay come in this kitchen and he start eating food and he's like, oh, this is terrible. I can't eat this. This is bad, right? And I think to myself, like, I go to eat in restaurants all day, every day, and for my palate, for the things that I eat on a regular basis that Gordon Ramsay would probably think is the worst thing ever, I think tastes amazing. I might cook something in the kitchen right now. I eat it, I'm full as hell. And Gordon Ramsay like, oh, you put too much salt, you did this stuff. And I think that that's what's happening with Gelo Ball is they're comparing him to these 5-star restaurants, and he might not be a 5-star restaurant, but that don't mean that it's not good food, or don't mean that there's no place for him in the league. You know what I mean? Just because he's not the top 5 pick in the draft. You know what I mean? There's a guy who gets picked last in every draft who is still an NBA player. He too slow to guard other shooting guards, weak handle. I think that here's the thing with like game is, and this is why when we talk about certain guys who get a pass in college, or like who don't get the opportunities that there's never been a point where anybody said, "Yo, Gelo, show us your handle, bring the ball up the court." You don't need to do that because you got Melo doing it. So people just have never seen him handle it like that because he's never had to. He's a shooter. That's it. His game is, I'm going to go stand over here on the wing and I'm going to knock down shots. There's guys like that in the NBA right now who are not athletic, who don't have a great ball handle, but shoot the lights out. And that's what you get from him, who are slow, not that tall, not big. And I think that honestly his athleticism is probably a bit underrated, because the dude, I think, when he was at the one combine in Orlando, he had a 40-inch vertical, something like that, 37, 38, 39, 40, somewhere like that. So I think his athleticism is there, but stuff like slow, can't handle, not a great player. So that's what I'm saying. Like it's tough because you see people like that in the NBA, but those are also things that, like what I was saying, is that you have guys who come out of high school with one game, but after 4 years in college may have matured their game to a place where you're NBA ready. I think the biggest issue that Gelo faces is that most people expect him to like be in the NBA today. And they're like, yo, you ain't gonna never make the NBA because you're not in the NBA today. Well, some people's trajectory and path are not high school to the pros, freshmen to the pros, freshmen to the NBA, high school to NBA. Some people's paths are high school, college, G League, overseas, semi-pro, such and such, NBA. I know guys who I went to college with at Iowa State who left Iowa State, went overseas for some years, and then made it back to the NBA. So you take a guy who spent 4 years in college, 3 years overseas, and then played in the NBA. At some point, if you looked at his game as a sophomore, you would say he can't do it. There's these flaws in his game, it's not ready. But after you go through all of these different stages, so then after you go through all of these different stages, you find yourself prepared for the NBA or different levels of professional basketball. And that's what I think Gelo has to do. He does have some holes in his game, but it's just a matter of like, what do you do to seal up those holes? Gelo has something that many players don't. The dude have heart. All Gelo needs is to be trained by a ball handling coach. James Harden went to the professor. I did see that video. But I feel like that was just some like marketing stuff for Adidas. He didn't really get trained by the professor. Everyone, this chat. So now, no telling the truth is. Oh, now telling the truth is hate. Gelo is a shooter. You know what's funny is, I'm glad you said that about the hating thing, right? I was just having this conversation with my lady today, and like, she was saying something, I was like, damn, you hating, right? And to me, hating is when you tell somebody, like, oh, like if you say, oh yeah, you trash, right? And you trash because your handle ain't there or whatnot, right? And the truth of the matter is that in order to, or you always going to be trash. Let me say that. You never going to do this. You always going to be that, because at this moment you are one way. When the reality is that if you put in X amount of work, you can change what you're deficient at over time, right? So like, to not be a hater is to say you're not ready because you have these deficiencies that you need to work on. To then be a hater, to me, is when you say you'll never do it because you have these deficiencies that you need to work on. Gelo is a shooter, really great shooter. What's good with the All-American game? Hey, All-American game, man. Vegas. Pull up, man. I'm hoping that there's some type of live stream for that. Gelo has something. Gelo can score. He can bully smaller guys down low. He's a hooper for shout. But he does. I will say that I think that this is something that I've talked about. Is one of the issues when people say he got the slow feet. He has had an ankle injury for like 3 years now. That like, if you remember going back to Chino Hills, he missed some games his senior year dealing with the ankle injury. Coming into, they left Vitotas early because he wasn't playing because he had the ankle injury. In his JBA, he had the ankle injury. Let's say in JBA USA, he had the big ankle injury, which I feel like it was what was slowing him down with some of that lateral movement and stuff like that. When he went to go try out with the Golden State Warriors, they said that tryout got cut short because of that ankle injury. And from what I was told is that at this moment, post JBA USA, he's had the time to actually rehab and bring that ankle back to full strength. So I think the next time you see Gelo on court, you're going to see a more agile version of him, hopefully. If Gelo was 6'9", he'd be the best prospect. And that's what's up. But that's what I'm saying. I don't think that... Well, I don't know. I can't say that. I was going to say, I don't think that you can go from, if you were X tall, you'd be the best prospect, to say like you 3 or 4 inches shorter, so now you're not a prospect at all. But 3 or 4 inches is a lot when you're talking about professional basketball in the NBA. Consistent, y'all. Only watch the highlights. Facts. Where can we buy the BBB water? Man, you can grab the water. You got to be on the West Coast. Let me see. I've been smacking this water, man. Let me. Sorry, man. Oh, Lord. Oh, check it out now. Oh, my label coming off, man. Let me see. Here we go. Got that water. You know what I'm saying? For the culture. Oh, the Agville. I took the sport top and put it on here. My son had he played basketball, so I let him take the BBB water, you know what I'm saying, to go get hydrated. So I threw the other top on there. Gelo and Melo should go to G League. That'd be super dope. Who your next JBA interview? Man, I got this little segment that I shot a long time ago with my dog Jalen Nixon, who I need to edit that thing and put it out. I actually edited it, but then I just wanted to do so much extra to it that like I just haven't been able to put it out yet. But also, man, I want to, here in Indianapolis, I don't know if y'all know Tone. Dang, I just forgot his last name. Tone Antonio Singleton played for the Chicago Ballers. I want to link up with him and kind of get his story. And if you remember him, he had like his like even road to the JBA, a road to just continuing to play basketball was such a moving story. So I really want to share that and just kind of see where he's going post basketball and all of that stuff. I feel like that would be dope. So be on the lookout for that content. Live about him possibly playing in the G League. I did not see that. Gelo should have been given a chance to play with LeBron simply because of style, plays exactly what LeBron loves. Yeah, but I feel like one of the things that I've learned over the past year is that politics is real. Like, everybody, there are folks with an agenda, and there are folks who definitely make decisions not based on talent. it's a fact. Like, I think that a lot of people think that just the boogeyman and it's not a real thing, and people aren't really like that. Everything is fair game, but the truth of the matter is, like, it's a fact. Like, talent doesn't always get you where you want to be. Connections don't always. Well, they help you out a lot, but when certain people make a decision that we're not going to do this thing and we're going to all make that decision, you've seen it happen with Kaepernick, the collusion thing. Like, collusion is real. Gelo in the style of play similar to his dad's, he'll excel for sure. That's a fact. I think when you look at that fast-paced big baller brand offense, you've seen a couple things with that. You've seen him get out, shoot the three heavy. You've seen him be out in transition and be able to go to work on folks down in the post. And so I think that, yeah, that style of offense works for him. But I think that there's other ways that he'd be effective too, just because he's such a strong shooter, where if you can get him to post up somewhere in a corner or get him open looks, he's going to knock down open shots. And you know he's going to do that, because if you put a hand in his face, he damn near going to knock that down too. Who going one and done this year? Obviously, you know your boy Zion going, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish. The whole damn Duke team is going to the NBA this year. Romeo Langford, I talked about him. He's supposed to be going. He's a top 5 pick right now. You waking so early to work, bro. But I remember in Macedonia after the game tomorrow, I came to the hotel to take a pic with Gelo, and you are there in the lobby with your laptop. 7 a.m. Haha. Macedonia, man. Hey, Macedonia is such an interesting thing for me right now. Just listening to, because we were there, and one of the moments we were there, we're talking to this lady who was talking with us just out of nowhere. She started talking. We were actually in Greece, and then we said we were going to Macedonia, and then she was like, "You already in Macedonia." And then while we were in that Macedonia, we started to hear about some of the disputes with the names and some of the things that were happening, all of those changes that we're making. So it's kind of like interesting for me when I read through all of that stuff, and like the Northern Republic of Macedonia and all of the people who want that to happen, don't want that to happen, UN and all of that stuff. It's kind of interesting, man. That was one of the beauties of going on that JBA USA trip, is it just enlightened me to some of these issues that are happening throughout the world. My dog King C in the building say, "Let's go, smack that like button for your man AB the Hero." That's a fact, Mundo. Smack that like button, man. You ain't here tuned in right now, you might as well go ahead and smack that thing. Let's get some shout outs, man. Gang Music, Slim Rose, What It Do, KP Speaks, Nothing But the Facts, Johnny on the Track, What It Do, Damian McGee, JG, Malizi Umu. That's what's up. Yeah, we have problems with Greece. I don't know why Greece hates us, but it is what it is. Yeah, that's rough, man. It is rough. And that's the thing. That's one of the things that I realize in each country. Everybody has their own problems, but everybody has the same problem, where there's some group of people who they don't really like that, and there's some beef and some issues here, and immigrants, or what do they call them? In one place they were talking about gypsies, another place they were talking about refugees, immigrant. You know what I mean? There's just so many different issues that people have all around the world. Talking with Fresh in here. Mad about Gelo not getting picked up by teams. I don't think he's mad. I'm sure. This is the thing that I feel like they have had so much success that, like, I can't imagine them just being like upset about anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, my lights done died on me. I'm gonna turn out here super dark on y'all, man. But I just can't imagine them being upset about really anything, because it's all worked out better than probably expected for most. Like, they've done the unexpected. What they did can't be duplicated by pretty much anybody. So to have one guy son in the NBA and at least one more damn near guaranteed a spot in the NBA, like, you know what I'm saying, it is what it is. Picked up. I think he'll get picked up eventually. What country would you pick? Favorite you visited this year? I will say that I actually just came back from Mexico too, which I had never been there, so it was kind of cool. A very interesting little spot right down there by Cancun on an island called Isla Mujeres. But I would say, for me, the best country that we visited was probably, I had to give it to Russia, and specifically St. Petersburg, Russia. And I'll tell you why. I think that was the place that we went to that had kind of the best of both worlds. So we went to like London, we went to Moscow, we were in Berlin, we went to some big cities, and we went to some with these different countries and we went to their big cities as well. Bulgaria was actually dope as well. But so I'll say that the cool thing about St. Petersburg, Russia, was it was a big city, but like we moved around it like it was a small city. You know what I mean? Like, it's a big city, but there's like one area you can go to and you can just walk up and down the street, and that was kind of dope. Whereas our first city, we were in Svendborg, Denmark, and it was really small, and you can walk up and down the street. You could kind of pretty much know where everything was, and that was the experience that we kind of had in St. Petersburg. Even though it was a huge city, it was a ton of people. I will say that, like, there was this one time we were in this like little karaoke bar, and one of the guys who we were with was Lithuanian, but he spoke Russian, and I just had bad vibes being in there because people were being too friendly at times and like whispering and doing all this extra stuff, and I didn't know what was going on, so I wanted to leave. And then I found out from my guy who spoke Russian that there were folks in there like, who are these dudes? They think they so cool, they American, but speaking in Russian, so we couldn't understand them. And he's like, we should just slide one of them. We should knock one of them out right now. And then so he was like, yo, let's go. And I was already feeling, so I was like, yo, let's go too. But so that was it was a cool time. It was a cool little city, but it did almost get crazy in there as well. When can we expect the ABD Hero merch, man? I got some little t-shirts, man, you can cop now. I think in the description there should be a link to it. Nothing too crazy. Yeah, Bulgaria, they hate the Roma, aka gypsies. They get treated bad. See? Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, like that. Bulgaria though was actually dope. We were in Sofia, Bulgaria, and there's like this little area where you can just walk, and they got little food spots, and the food was amazing. And that also is how I decide whether something is dope or not, is that if the food is hella good. And food was good as hell all over the place. Jeff Goodman still cut off from BB camp, and how did it feel being announcer to JBA USA, seeing Gelo and Melo and everyone going off? Being announcer to JBA USA was dope, obviously, because we got to hit all these different countries. We're traveling so much, but it was interesting because like the JBA US, no matter who we play, JBA USA, those are our guys, right? I want to see Curtis Hollis go off. So we are announcers, but we were like biased announcers pretty much, right? It's like watching a Laker game and the Lakers have their own announcers in their local market, right? All these NBA teams have their, so there were like, I think that it was a bit of an issue at times for certain folks who were like not pro JBA USA. So like if you tuned in because you wanted to see them lose and you listening to the announcers hype up your favorite player's favorite player, the Luca Brasi, you know what I'm saying, Gelo, Cash and Splash, Master Chef Melo, and you like, dang, oh what? Why is he so hype on them? You know what I'm saying? So I think that was probably like the one thing that folks wanted me to switch up, but I was like, we travel. The common denominator between every game are these 10 players. So like, I'm not going to play this like unbiased role when like the truth of the matter is, if we go play in Macedonia tomorrow, the likelihood of folks from Macedonia watching us play a different country, not Macedonia, is slim to none. There's a greater possibility that folks who watch every game from the U.S. and who like those players will be watching. So I catering to them. But overall, man, it was a great experience, man. It's what I would call a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Is LeVar still in the old house? No, I don't think so. I think like some other family members live in that house now. Yeah, was it Martinez? Yeah, Martinez. And the crazy thing is, he didn't even tell us till like days later that there were people literally in there plotting on us. And he didn't even say anything. And it was kind of crazy because then we walked outside the little spot, and it was like just people on horses, just like riding up and down the street. And it wasn't like a country area. This is like nothing but concrete everywhere, and they just have horses. Type of person that likes to inspire the next generation. What kind of inspiration and motivational things do teach your son to inspire him? That's a fact, man. That's me, man. I spent most of my like professional career working with youth. I like worked in the youth shelter. I worked at a junior college. You know what I'm saying? Like that has been my like professional passion, is kind of trying to inspire those folks. And my son, I think that one of the biggest things that you can do when you're dealing with young folks, young adults, and you're trying to inspire them, is have to realize that all of them are different, and they all need different types of inspiration, and they all need different types of motivation. So for my son, he's only 8 years old. So for me, I like am trying to inspire him to have a very strong work ethic, right? And he's like one of them guys who he has had more in his life than I ever had, you know what I'm saying, growing up. So he like gets caught up in I don't like it, so I don't want to try it, or this is hard, so why do I got to do it? And I just keep trying to kind of push him that, you know what I'm saying, it's only hard because you haven't practiced or you haven't put the work in to make it easy. And this is kind of the language that we always talk about, is it's not about you can't do it. It's about you haven't worked hard enough to be able to do it as easy as you would like to do it. That and also like that you can make mistakes, but like that's not the end. You know what I'm saying? Like you can bounce back from all kinds of stuff. Well, let's see. I've always noticed a few haters in the crowd at the games. You could tell when dude targeted Melo, he thought he was going to be a hero. That's the last kind of drama on it. Exactly. I would tell you that time when the Melo thing happened, that was an interesting moment for me, because one of the things that the feelings that I continue to feel when we're in all of these different countries is like the reality that we are literally, like folks in the US say, we're in the middle of nowhere. But when you over there in Europe and one of these remote countries, and like you really feel like we in the middle of nowhere. Like if it go down right now, it's only us. Like you can't count, you don't feel like you can count on many folks, right? Like if I call the police, I don't even know how to call the police for help. And if I do, I don't even know what type of help they're going to provide. You know what I mean? So when that whole skirmish happened with Melo, the way that I felt in that moment was, okay, now we all going to have to fight our way out of this gym. Like it's on. Like the folks is coming out of the stands. They finna jump on him. I was sitting there, and then I was like, yo, I'm going to have to jump over this rail. I had to help and jump in there. I'm going to have to get my hands dirty. And like that's what was going through my head in that moment. But then I looked over at like LeVar and Allen, who was sitting courtside, and they hadn't got up. And then I realized, I was like, man, if they haven't moved yet, then like I probably need to just relax. And it's probably not as serious of a situation as I think it was. And then so instantly we just kicked back in and started commentating the game. While folks only talk about JBA USA, respect the entire league and the other players who didn't just play a few games on the JBA USA tour. I feel like that's a true thing. I think that most people talk about the JBA USA thing so much is because the way that it was built is like, oh, these are the best players going to play on the next level of JBA USA. So when you because of that, when they start talking about opportunity and what's happening next, you would believe that those guys who were selected to be like the top players were probably the folks who probably had the greatest chance for the next opportunity. And so y'all was slipping. Facts, they almost caught us slipping. But let me see. Alright, so right now, man, I want to know who y'all got in this NCAA tournament. Is this Duke team going to win it all? Or do you got a special team that y'all rooting for? I went to Iowa State, so they just won the Big 12 tournament, and they're in the March Madness. So I'm hoping that they have some success and win it all. So typically, when I fill out a bracket, I fill out a Iowa State bracket, and then I fill out like, you know what I'm saying, what other teams that I feel like may win it, with that team potentially being who I potentially could win. Let me see. I think you have good commentary, but I don't feel you provide an honest assessment of the JBA. See, I think that I do. I think that one of the things that when I was thinking about what type of commentary I wanted to do for each one of those games, I wanted it to be different. I wanted it to be my own. And I think that in just my regular life, like, I'm not like a hater. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't necessarily, I lean more towards, if you having an off night shooting, like, I'm not the guy who's going to say, you can't shoot. I'm the guy who's probably going to say he's off, or, you know what I'm saying? I'm not the guy who's going to say, yo, this dude is terrible, he can't play. I'm the guy who's going to say he got to work on his game a little bit. You know what I mean? And I think that when you look at most commentators and what you do for like clicks and shock value, you give, they kind of spin things in a more negative way. And I also think that when I look at those guys, there's a bunch of young dudes who are in a crazy experience. And I feel like when you know what the intentions are and what's actually happening on the court and what people expect out of them, like, it's exactly what really is what really was happening. Honest critique of the JBA success. Arenas were empty. But let me see. Duke all day. Duke, yes, sir. I feel like Barrett and Zion has taken away from Reddish in this game. I believe that, too. And I think that's why he's going to get it past and still be a top 5, top 10 pick. But let's see. Honest critique of the I think that I feel like my critique of the success has been legitimate. Like, the arenas were empty, or arenas looked empty because they were 5,000 to 10,000 seat arenas. So like, if you were expecting to have a sold out crowd of 10,000 people, then like, it's not a success. You know what I'm saying? But if you are expecting to put on a show every night, have people tune into a live stream, and travel around the country with 64 players, have 2 games a night, and have that get off without a hitch, then it was a success. I think that the biggest thing that I see when people critique whether or not the JBA was a success or not is that their own criteria for what success is, not necessarily measured by what the folks who were putting it on were determining it to be a success. LeVar said sold out arenas, but He not gonna say we semi sold out arenas and such like that. There's a thing that you do for marketing and promotion and doing all of this stuff, and then there's a thing that there's a realistic idea that you have for that kind of stuff. And then you also take into the account that it's a first time league. So like LeVar's expectations may be one thing, but like my own personal realistic expectations for a league that's the first time with, let's say, 95% of young men playing in it that nobody's ever heard of, and you start to say this amount of people showed up to watch a basketball game, that with some folks who you literally don't know 80% of the folks who are on the court, especially if Melo and Gelo is not there, then 90%. You look at these guys who, like the Jarrell Springers, who now has fans all over the world. To me, that's a success. Jordan Ray, who has fans all over the world. Guys who like own social clout, has been elevated from playing in the JBA, and these are dudes who like people never knew. And then now they're kind of associated with something much bigger than they had ever been associated with in their life. To me, that's success. Did a great job, in my opinion, unbiased commentary with actual knowledge of the game, with a genuine swag. And that's what I was trying to go for, man. I didn't really want to do too much, or I didn't want to imitate other commentators. I wanted to kind of bring my own thing to it. And I feel like it was dope. What I really want to do, man, is one of these days, I'm going to go back and I'm going to make like a little highlight tape from the season of just some of the commentary that we had. I feel like that would be dope. You think J. Ray has a chance to make the NBA, maybe a second round? And what would he average his rookie season if he got some minutes? This is what I'm saying. I think that J. Ray has a chance to make the NBA at some point. I think that if he literally got into the NBA this year, it would be one of the greatest success stories ever in basketball history. To go from a not well known recruit, play a summer of basketball in a league, play a half a semester of basketball for like traveling around with the same league, and then to go get drafted in the NBA, that would be like a phenomenal story, right? But I also think it would be just as phenomenal as if he didn't get drafted this year, but went to go play somewhere else, and then 3 years from now, he ended up back in the NBA, like, or the G League. To me, that's still a success, because it put him on the road to get there. So I think he has the ability to do it. 6'4" point guard, can shoot the lights out, got some handle, can play some defense, is a good facilitator of the ball. I just think that a lot of people have these crazy expectations for the JBA and then like the players of like, and also like, it's one of those things where it's like a dream come true. Like, none of those guys who played on that team woke up in January and thought, I'm finna be on the JBA league, I'm gonna travel around the country, going to all these different cities and hooping, getting paid to play, and then I'm going to like play overseas in Europe with Lamelo Ball and Melo and Gelo. Like, that is something like out of a storybook that happens. That if you were writing down, let me write down a movie, like, and then I'm gonna end up in NBA. Like, that's some like unbelievable Hollywood be like, look, but it don't sound right. Like, why would somebody just start a league? Why would they just take random kids around the world? Like, that's just a fact. Like, that's just so the fact that it happened is so crazy. So I can understand why like some folks like, yo, maybe the NBA is coming up next. But I think that you see like the guys who really, really, really have a shot are guys who are like right now looking for that opportunity to play somewhere else. He wasn't necessarily kicked. Why Greg Floyd was kicked out from JBA? I don't think that he wasn't kicked out from the entire JBA, just off the USA team. Him and two other players, Jamichael Morgan and my dog Cam Clark, and for each, I think just different reasons. Just at that time, I think that they had lost like 2 games in a row to a team in Lithuania, basically almost 3 games in a row or so. Well, they lost not in a row. They lost 2 or 3 games in Lithuania, and I felt like what they realized is that the chemistry of all of the players there was not gelling the way that they wanted it to. And so I think that they just made an executive decision to move on from guys who they felt like were not helping the chemistry be what it could be at its best. What's the status of the injuries from the JBA USA tour? I think everybody's good, man. Taco, who went home, he's playing with the Dallas Heat. Nate Morris, who went home, is playing with the Dallas Heat. Jordan Ray, we've seen clips of him hooping and doing stuff and moving around, so he's good. I think that the only one I'm not sure of is Big Jelly, who ended up going home because he was having some heart issues. He's the only one who I'm not sure of, like, where his progression is or where he's at with the injuries that he kind of like either incurred or came into it with. But, and also, like I said, Gelo, I heard that he's rehabbing and all that stuff as well. So I think that these guys will be prepared and ready to play basketball. El Salvador, that's where Harrison Rieger is playing basketball in El Salvador. But like guys like Montrell Dixon is playing basketball somewhere overseas somewhere and was dominating. He's a guy who like didn't make that USA tour, but could potentially have some big things happening for him in the future. Real talk, is LiAngelo NBA ready? That's what I'm saying. I don't know if he's NBA ready at this moment, but I think he has the ability to over time be able to be NBA ready. I think that there's a space for him if somebody wanted to pick him up and like give him a shot. There's a role that you could fit him in that I feel like he would be successful and potentially dominate at. But like, if you asking, is he like gonna ready to be LeBron James tomorrow in the NBA? Maybe not. Is he in position to be the highest percentage 3-point shooter on a team? I think he could do that. Could he be the overall leading scorer for a team? If you just let him run, I think he could do that. But is that going to happen? Is that potentially his path? You know what I'm saying? Maybe not. You take guys like Kyle Kuzma, who is like an elite scorer right now for the Lakers, and like if that situation was not perfect for him, he would not be scoring the ball at the rate that he's doing currently. The best path for LaMelo, I think that no matter what path LaMelo takes outside of I'm just done playing basketball, is going to end in NBA. Like, honestly, even if he didn't even play at all this next year, he would still be in the NBA. Would he be a first round pick or a second round pick? That would be determined based on the path. I think that in order to, but honestly, either way, it just wouldn't matter. It would just be about him dominating. If he went to the G League and dominated, then he would be a first round pick, top 5 pick, I should say. If he went to college and dominated, he'd be a top 5 pick. If he went overseas and dominated, he'd be a top 5 pick. But I think that if he went to either one of those spaces and didn't have a great season, he'd still end up in the NBA in 1 year. But yeah, I'm on. So that's what's up, though, man. But we've been on here for a cool hour and 9 minutes, man. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to hop off here in a second, and then I'm gonna hop off here in a second, man. But if y'all got any more questions or anything else y'all trying to talk about, let's talk. Probably a second round pick where it has to prove himself, no guaranteed contract, because I don't think that that's the case. I think that that's all smoke. I don't think that NBA teams allow him to slide that far. I think his game is too complete. He likes 6'6", 6'7" point guard. When you look at guys like Brandon, what's the dude? Ben Simmons. Big, tall guys who can handle the ball. The one thing that those dudes are missing, Giannis, tall dudes play point guard, is they cannot shoot the three. Lamelo Ball gives you the tall, lanky point guard who's got some athleticism and then also unlimited range. Like, that's not common in basketball. 6'7" point guard, he probably would be, outside of those dudes who are like freaks of nature, like one of the top 2 or 3 top 5 tallest point guards in the NBA, and also one of the top shooters in the NBA as well. How much cars has LeVar? LeVar they got a few whips at the crib. Oh, they got the 2 Escalade joints. They got the is it a Bentley? I think they got a Bentley, a Rolls Royce, one of them. Some Demons. Then they garage is sick. What about a 5-year high school program? I think that high school is not the move. Prep school or whatever that is, staying there is not the move for him. Who would your number 1 most improved athlete be 2018, 2019? Any league based on work ethic? In any league based, I don't know, man. That's a tough one. Most improved athlete be in like across all leagues professionally? I'm not sure. So it's a bunch of folks out there who probably deserve that title. But shoot, man, we're gonna have to do this more often, man. I'm gonna have to hop on here with the live stream. I really don't have my setup that I normally have. I had the lights and shit. It'd be all, and I hit the thing and be whipping it around, all that stuff. But we'll get it going, man. We'll have to do this. We got to do it tomorrow, man. I'm working on this little series that I want to do. It's called Free Game Fridays, where I give y'all some free game. You know what I'm saying? It's free. You can keep it. And it's just some like tips and tricks or like some advice that I feel like I want to share with y'all, my subs and folks who just stumble across the content. And so I want to get that started. I'm going to try to get it started tomorrow, Free Game Friday. Make sure you tune in. If you subscribe to the channel or have not subscribed, as soon as you subscribe, you're chilling out on the live screen with me. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell, get the notifications and all that stuff. And we're going to get the content rolling. You think they're going to play in the same team? I think that would be dope for them to play in the same team. I think that it would say a lot for them to do that, because basically you are like buying into the system, like LeVar's system. So, but I think that it wouldn't be crazy for an NBA team to like just try it. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at what the Sixers did with the process, and they tanked like 5 or 6 seasons. So even if it don't work, so happen like you end up with the top pick in the draft and you bounce back anyway. So, or it do work, and then all of a sudden you're in the playoffs and you done won the whole thing, and you got the 3 brothers with trophies talking about, we ain't worried about nothing, huh? It ain't worried about nothing. But yeah, so I'm gonna hop off here, man. It's your main man, ABD Hero. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Like I said, once we missed the first round of NCAA tournament, but once that like little Sweet 16 bracket kick in, we're gonna do a little something right there, and we're gonna make it happen. Basketball, especially LA, they need to make that happen. I don't know about the girlfriend stuff. I don't be keeping up, but all right though, we're finna hop up off here. She made man AB the hero. I am out. If I can get this thing off. Peace.